I know exactly what the heavy silence in the bedroom feels like when your body refuses to cooperate. But the way to get your confidence back is not hidden inside a prescription bottle. It is a mechanical fix you can start doing right now. It is a terrible moment when you realize the predictability of your own body is gone. You are lying there in the dark, pretending you are just tired, pretending you have too much on your mind from work, when the truth is your system simply stopped responding the way you expect it to. That failure does something very quiet and very destructive to a man. It dismantles your pride from the inside out. I lived inside that quiet destruction for years. For most of my late 40s and through my 50s, I was a high-functioning sales executive. I spent my life in airport lounges, rental cars, and conference rooms. I was the kind of man who believed that if a problem appeared, you simply applied more force, more money, or a faster shortcut to fix it. That is how you survive in business, and I thought that was how you survived getting older. When my performance started to fade, I did not look at the underlying mechanics of my body. I panicked, and I went looking for a quick exit. I did what millions of men do. I got the little blue pills. At first, it feels like you solved the problem. You take the pill, the blood flows, and you feel like you bought yourself another 10 years of youth. But it is a rented solution, and the interest rate is incredibly high. You start relying on it. You have to time your evening around it. You deal with the flushed face, the headache, the rapid heartbeat, and the underlying anxiety of wondering if it is going to work this time. You are taking a highly stressed, exhausted engine that is running on dirty oil, and you are chemically forcing it to run at maximum RPMs. It is not sustainable. It is a Band-Aid on a broken pipe. My reliance on those pills did not save my marriage at the time. The physical distance was already there, but the emotional distance grew because I refused to have a real conversation about what was actually failing. I was hiding behind a chemical shortcut instead of facing the fact that my infrastructure was collapsing. We eventually divorced. I do not blame her. I know what I was avoiding. I had to hit a wall of absolute frustration to finally look under the hood. I realized I had to stop forcing the system and start understanding why the flow was blocked in the first place. If you are a man over 50, circulation is your entire life. Your energy, your cognitive sharpness, and your ability to perform rely entirely on blood traveling unimpeded through thousands of miles of vessels. What I discovered changed everything, and it had nothing to do with my heart or my testosterone levels. It had to do with a mechanical vice grip I had been tightening for decades without even knowing it. I am talking about the pelvic floor, the hidden muscle that acts as the hammock holding all your vital plumbing together. Think about how most of us have lived our adult lives. I sat in my car commuting. I sat on cross-country flights. I sat in boardroom chairs for 10 hours a day. When you sit that much, your hips lock up. But it is more than just sitting. It is the stress. When a man is carrying financial pressure, relationship tension, or work anxiety, he naturally clenches his jaw and his shoulders. What no one tells you is that you also clench your pelvic floor. For years, I was walking around with that entire lower infrastructure tightened into a knot. When that muscle is constantly clenched, it acts exactly like a vice grip on a garden hose. It physically chokes off the blood vessels. You can take all the blue pills you want, forcing blood downward. But if the valve is crushed shut by chronic muscle tension, you are fighting a losing battle. The plumbing simply cannot work. The change happened when I realized I did not need to strengthen anything. I needed to release it. We are taught that as we get older, we need to do Kegels to keep things strong. We are told to clench, but for a stressed sitting man in his 50s, clenching is the absolute worst thing you can do. The muscle is already overworked and exhausted. You do not tighten a knot to untie it. You have to stretch it out. I had to learn how to do a reverse stretch. It felt ridiculous at first. I am a guy from Texas living in Scottsdale. I'm not the demographic for deep breathing exercises, but I looked at it purely as mechanical maintenance. If a pipe is crushed, you have to relieve the pressure on the pipe. I started incorporating a deep resting squat into my morning routine. Just dropping down like a baseball catcher, keeping my feet flat and letting my hips open up. At first, my ankles and knees hated it. I could barely hold it for 20 seconds. My lower back was stiff as a board, but I kept doing it. I would hold onto a heavy piece of furniture for balance and just sink down into that position, breathing deeply into my stomach. When you breathe deep into your belly in that squat, you physically push the pelvic floor down. You force it to stretch. You are taking the vice grip and slowly turning it the other way. The physical sensation was undeniable. I could literally feel decades of accumulated corporate stress and physical tension unspooling in my lower body. The results did not happen overnight. You do not undo 30 years of sitting in chairs in 1 week. But after about a month of doing this simple mechanical maintenance every morning, a fundamental shift occurred. The heaviness in my lower back started to vanish. My stride when I walked felt looser. And then the morning response began to return. It was not forced by a chemical. It was the natural result of clearing the blockage. The blood vessels were no longer being choked. The pressure had normalized. The flow had returned because the infrastructure was finally allowed to open up. Confidence comes back when the body starts responding naturally again. I am 63 now. When I married Alyssa, I brought a different version of myself to the relationship. Alyssa is a direct woman who values presence over performance, but the truth is, you cannot be fully present when you're quietly ashamed of your own failing mechanics. I can show up for her honestly because I stopped looking for shortcuts and started doing the actual maintenance. A lot of men are not broken. They are just clamped down and ignoring the wrong things. We wait entirely too long to face what has changed because we think a loss of vitality makes us less of a man. The truth is, ignoring it is what diminishes you. Taking ownership of the mechanics of your own body, taking the time to stretch out the tension that is destroying your plumbing, is the most masculine thing you can do. I'm not telling you that a simple squat is a magic cure for everything. I still have days where I feel my age, but I am consistent. I wake up, I hydrate, I drop into that deep squat, and I release the tension. I maintain the engine. You have to release the pressure if you want the flow to return. You are not the only man dealing with this quiet decline. You are just the only one who can decide to fix the plumbing. Let go of the vice grip. Look at the mechanics. Simple as that.